Hello and welcome to another round of Championship predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me, as always, is Mr. Daniel Cody. Let's have a quick recap of what we predicted for the last week in the Championship. Let's start off with last weekend, where there were two perfect scores overall, and they're both mine. Luton's 1-0 win against Derby, and Forest's 2-0 win against Bristol City gives me the 6 points there. There were four more other points in my favour. Daniel, no perfect score for him, but he gets a respectable 6 points. However, Tuesday night, Cardiff did beat Derby by the odd goal late on, but that gives Daniel Cody the 3 points that he desperately needed in the famous Craig Savage time. So let's get on for this weekend's action. We start off with two games on Friday night. Two of the teams in out of the four are playing in the FA Cup on Monday. So let's start off with one of them. It is Huddersfield. They're at home to Peterborough. Huddersfield won 2-0 at Birmingham. Peterborough lost heavily in Grant McCann's first game, 3-0 to Hull, but they put an okay performance against Man City in the Cup, despite losing.
Yeah, they held them off quite well for a while. They made quite a few changes. They went for a lot of pace rather than the usual Johnson, Clark, Harris. And I feel that might be the way forward for them in the relegation battle, because they did look a lot better when they were playing on the counter. And Grant McCann, we know at Hull, tried to build a solid defensive base. So I think that's what we're going to need to see. But we've got to bear in mind, Peterborough have scored one goal in the last 6 games. And they're going to have to better that if they want an opportunity of staying up. In terms of Huddersfield, look, they've been a surprise all season. They're constantly solid. They're one of the form teams in the Championship, quietly under the radar. They're up to third now. They're 2 points off second. I know they've played 4 games more than Bournemouth, but it's been a remarkable season from them, really, hasn't it? They've let in 2 goals in their last 6. They've scored 2 in each of their last 3. I think it might even be more convincing. I'm going to go for Huddersfield 3, Peterborough 0.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a Huddersfield win as well. At one point, Huddersfield were in second place because Bournemouth were losing at the time. So it's been a remarkable run, second in the form guide in the last 6 games. They're not really conceding either. Last 6 games, scored 8, conceded 2. So it's been really good for Huddersfield. I've been really, really impressed. Peterborough, really disappointing first game under Grant McCann, especially against Hull. 3-0 it's not a flattering scoreline. Hull fully deserved it. It could have been a lot worse. So they're down. Let's be brutally honest. I mean, it'd be a miracle for them to survive. They've got to stop scoring goals. They've got to stop shipping goals. They've got to find a way of just winning a game again. They haven't won since November. So it's all points to a Huddersfield win. You've gone for Huddersfield win. I'm going to go for Huddersfield win. So I'm going to go by 2 goals to 0. Right, next up is Sheffield United versus Nottingham Forest. Sheffield United lost, losing 1-0 to Millwall. And Nottingham Forest with that 2-0 win against Bristol City. These two teams fighting for playoffs. This is going to be an absolute doozy.
It is. I mean, there's quite a few big games there. We've got 7th v 9th and 6th v 8th this weekend. So that's going to be pretty exciting in the fight for the last places. Sheffield United, it was a really poor game against Millwall. And they sort of regressed a little bit there. They played a lot of possession football, but didn't really create many chances. Not that Millwall did either, but probably a draw would have been a fair result. Forest, very solid at home. They've been traditionally good away all season. And the only thing that makes me doubt it is at home to Huddersfield on Monday, they'll probably see it in the FA Cup as a real chance at the quarter-final. And then you're only 1 game from Wembley. Will that have an impact? I don't know. I have no way to separate these teams. And both are great defensively. So I'm going to go for 0-0. And I think this game is on TV, isn't it? So it'll probably be an absolute shocker as a result.
This is actually, I've just looked at it. You got a first v 4th as well to predict. Sheffield United disappointing last week. And again, Millwall are also one of the informed teams as well. Forest, it was comfortable for Forest, let's be honest. Oh, I don't know. I generally don't know. I'm going to go Forest by 1-0. Right, next up, it is Fulham at the Cottage. They're at home to Blackburn Rovers. Both these teams won by 0-0. Fulham won 1-0 at Cardiff, and Blackburn, much needed 1-0 win against QPR.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's a really good performance from Blackburn, a sign of a return to form. They haven't got some of their key goal scorers fit all the time, but they needed the win. They get their place back in the playoffs comfortably, and beating the sides around them is the best way to guarantee a top 6 finish. Fulham, just playing like champions, really, aren't they? If we take out the Huddersfield game, nicking 1-goal wins, they're at the stage of the season where they don't need to be fancy. They've scored their 82 goals already. Their goal difference will be just fine. It's hard to back against Fulham. I know they lost the one home game. There's something in my head telling me it might be a draw, but I can't back it. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Fulham because they've got the greater cutting edge at the minute.
Well, this won't be 7-0 like it was in the reverse fixture. Not a chance. Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. They, with Fulham, don't need to be special. They can easily get over the line. Another away 1-0. I think they're the best victories when you're away from home. 1-0 generally are the best away victories. Got the goal. Sharp. Blackburn much needed the win. It was a great free kick as well, especially against a team that's your playoff rival as well in QPR. I'm going to go Fulham to win by 2-1. Next up, it's Bristol City versus Birmingham at Ashton Gate. Bristol City lost 2-0 to Nottingham Forest, and Birmingham lost 2-0 at home to Huddersfield. Okay. Where do we start with this?
Well, I think firstly we start with both teams very glad that they got the cushion earlier in the season, thanks to the three teams woefully below the average point total for relegation. Otherwise, they'd both be in massive trouble at the minute. Both sides were outclassed last week. Huddersfield hit Birmingham on the counter and Forest were convincing against Bristol City, but we'd expect them to lose those games. Bristol City are better at home, albeit they threw one away against Coventry the time before. And Birmingham, traditionally in the last couple of years, have been better away, but they haven't been too good this year. They'll get away from all the protests and that. It will probably be helpful. But if Birmingham win, they go above them and suddenly it looks a lot rosier for them. So I have to sit on the fence. I have no idea. Both teams have been poor. I'm throwing out the Championship's favourite scoreline, but for them only to concede one each would be a miracle in itself. Screw it, 2-2. I've stole your score, haven't I?
No, I'm quite glad you did take 2-2 because I want 1-1 now. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be many goals in this game. There's not going to be much quality in this game. Bristol City, everyone knows I'm not anti-Bristol City, but they just don't play the greatest of all. Birmingham haven't really been spectacular. They've had two good games pretty much all season, spectacular games, and we all know who it's against. The team behind me and behind you. So yeah, it was another disappointing performance. Both teams were very disappointing last week. I think Birmingham will be more disappointing because it's at home. But both teams are playing against teams that are challenging for playoffs. So you're going 2-2. Birmingham will bring a good crowd to Ashton Gate as well. So it should be a lively game. I really do think that. But I'm going to go Championship favourite scoreline of 1-1. Right. We said about teams playing each other at the top. We've got two teams playing each other that are currently at the bottom. It is Derby County versus Barnsley at Pride Park. Derby lost 1-0 in midweek when they really needed to pick up 3 points. Barnsley, fantastic 3-2 win against Middlesbrough.
Yeah, they've become counter-attacking. They've become ruthless. They've added that attacking threat after improving their defensive record. And it's now 3 wins in 4. And you start to think, this is a Barnsley side that, of the teams down there, maybe bar Derby until recent weeks, are the best defensively. It's 3 wins out of 4 now for Barnsley. I would argue maybe bar Derby in recent weeks, they've probably got the best defensive record of the teams down there, better than a few above them, the likes of Reading, Birmingham, Bristol City, etc. So if they can get a win here and Reading lose, we're talking about a 3-point gap. It's suddenly on. They've got the better goal difference of the two. And it does have that value, the same as with Luton a couple of years ago, having teams that have been in those pressure situations at the end of season before. And Barnsley are always involved in something. Last year it was the playoffs. The year before it was the Great Escape with Luton. And having that pressure and knowing how to deal with it can make a big difference. And Barnsley are the only side down there that have really got that. Derby just look like they're running out of steam now, both for the last 2 games. Second half goals, not able to get back into it. Cardiff one was obviously even later. I know they've got Tom Lawrence coming back, which will hopefully improve the creativity. I still think Barnsley are going to do it, you know. I know Derby are great at home. Barnsley, that was their first away win at Hull last time out. They're going back to back. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be 1-0.
This game does have 1-0 written all over it. It's literally who it goes to. Derby, that will hurt more. 4 defeats out of 5. It's not a good return for them. It had a little bit of hope when they beat Peterborough. It was that little bit of a 5-point gap to Reading. And there was a chance, but then they've gone back into their shells and lost 3 straight games. Obviously, I know Tom Lawrence wasn't playing for those 3 games, but they lost those games. They didn't look like they were going to score against Luton. They didn't look like they were going to score against Cardiff. I don't know where this miracle is going to come. The gap's still 8. They play more games than all the teams around them. So that's a horrible feeling for them. Barnsley, that result really threw me by surprise because Middlesbrough also on good form. Excellent result for them. Can they sneak out of it? If they get away with this, it'll be an absolute miracle. Them and Derby. 1-0 Barnsley you've gone for. I'll go same scoreline, but in Derby's favour.
Oh, that's bold.
Speaking of teams that are down there, Hull, they're at home to West Brom. It's another Championship Steve Bruce derby. Hull obviously won 3-0 at Peterborough, and West Brom once again lost, this time 2-0 to Swansea.
Yeah, and after finally ending that awful run in front of goal last time against Middlesbrough, to then draw a blank again, they had one shot on target in the whole game at home to a struggling Championship side. And we say that, Swansea now, if they win their games in hand, go above West Brom. That's how badly West Brom are doing. They're in the bottom half of the table. The form that turned under Ishmael has not come back under Steve Bruce. And we're talking about the most successful manager in Championship history. It's a bizarre old league. Hull were brilliant at Peterborough. They had to win that game just to give themselves the distance. And I think it's back to a 3-from-4 race now. Fantastic display. Keane Lewis-Potter, brilliant again. You have to back Hull to win it. They're in the better form of the two. Not that either are in brilliant form. It's their first win in 6 for them. But I have to go for Hull 2-0 because you can't bank on West Brom even to score now.
I worry about West Brom. I thought they were poor against Luton. Swansea, rubbish again. Swansea took the chances at the right time. Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 Hull. 2-1 Hull. Steve Bruce needs to find a way to win again. This West Brom side is shot. Confidence is shot. Right, next up is 2 of the teams have been better so far this year. Middlesbrough, they're at home to Luton Town. Middlesbrough lost to Barnsley in the league 3-2, but they've gone on to beat Spurs in the FA Cup. Luton beat Derby 1-0 thanks to Danny Hill, and you were there. Once again, not the greatest performances, but they're getting over the line.
They are. They're starting to perform like promotion contenders. Obviously, we don't know yet, as we're recording this, what's going to happen tonight against Chelsea in the Cup, what sort of team's going to be put out and what effect that will have. So we might look like idiots before this episode's even released. But if they play in 90 minutes, that sort of levels out the extra day's break for Borough, who went to extra time with their first team out against Spurs. I think Luton will rotate. They've alluded to it anyway. But brilliant form, 5 wins out of 6. I'd be surprised if Nathan Jones isn't up for manager of the month. There's a few players who have really come to the fore from further down the squad. So the elder statesmen, the likes of Jerome and Hilton, popping up with goals and assists the last couple of weeks, just when it's needed. Middlesbrough, phenomenal at home. They need to rely on their home form. They've only won 4 away games all season, which explains the last 3 performances on the road. But they've won 11 home games, which is the joint most this season. I'm going to be there, but I can't see Luton winning it. It's a draw at best. I want to say draw, but it's not going to be. 2-0 Borough. I think it will be one of those rare off days.
It's a big couple of games for Middlesbrough. It's been a big week already. Obviously beating Spurs. They've got obviously Luton next, and they've got Sheffield United next Tuesday. So 2 teams in that playoff hunt. Yeah, obviously Middlesbrough were poor, but they were really good against Spurs. But then again, this is Spurs. It's typical Spurs. Luton, obviously, it was I wouldn't say it was a comfortable 1-0 win, but Derby still weren't that great. But I was really happy that Hilton scored again. I keep texting you. Whenever Hilton starts, it's a Hilton masterclass. And once again, it was a Hilton masterclass. You went 2-0 Borough. I'm going to go 1-1.
The bias is coming out again.
But it's working. It's working. Like, Middlesbrough will be tired. I think Luton will be tired as well. Obviously, Middlesbrough going for 120 minutes is always tough. Obviously, we still don't know about Luton. We don't know Luton could beat Chelsea tonight. We don't know. It's the FA Cup. That's what happens. But Riverside, very tough place to go. Crowder on side again. I'll be more than happy with Luton to take a point. If they can get 3, I'll be buzzing. But I'll take the draw, and Middlesbrough will equalise late on. Right, next up is Preston versus Bournemouth at Deepdale. Preston drew 1-1, 2 goals very late on in that game against Coventry. And Bournemouth also scored 2 late goals late on. So Bournemouth back in prime position with games in hand. Preston, mid-table, absolutely fine.
Yeah, decent progression from Ryan Lowe's side. I think the one thing you can bank on is it may well be 0-0 at half-time in this game based on the team's recent games. Preston, bar that blip against Reading, have been pretty solid defensively. They were good against Forest. I know they'll be annoyed at the late goal against Coventry, but Preston have drawn over half of their home games this season. Bournemouth on the road are exceptional, the second best in the league after Fulham. And they've been producing the late show week after week after week. So I'm not going to go for 0-0, which is what I initially thought. I'm going to go for Bournemouth to nick it in the second half. I'm going to go 1-0 to the visitors. But again, Bournemouth, to be fair to them, the last 3 games, just doing what champions do or what promoted sides do. So you've got to give them credit.
I think Preston won at Bournemouth, didn't they? I think they broke the unbeaten run. So it's not going to be an easy game. Bournemouth, I think since the Bournemouth-Luton game, Bournemouth started to score late goals. Since it happened to them, they started to score later on. They obviously scored later on against Blackpool very recently away from home. They'll be happy with that. Back in prime position, games in hand, but they've got to win those games in hand. Get those points because obviously there's going to be teams waiting to pounce. So that was a crucial win for them. Preston, yeah, I was happy with that. I was happy with the point. You'd be disappointed to concede 96th minute, but this is Coventry. They never give up late on. I'm going to go to Bournemouth to win by 2-1. Once again, it'll be another late goal. Next up, QPR versus Cardiff City at Kieran Prince Foundation Stadium. Cardiff won 1-0 against Derby. QPR lost 1-0 to Blackburn. QPR, not the best time to lose a bit of form. 3 defeats in 6. Only 1 win in that 6 as well. And they lost again to another promotion side.
Cardiff will probably take a bit of confidence from the 1-0 win against Derby. It's a bit weird, this, because you've got QPR who score a lot of goals at home, 26 already this year. Cardiff score and concede plenty on the road. So if you weren't looking at their last 3 games and just looked at the 2 teams on their own, you'd think this is going to be goals galore. I know Cardiff have been better defensively under Steve Morrison, but they're still letting a few on the road. To be fair, they've only played 1 of their last 5 games in the league away from home, Cardiff, so there's not much to judge them on. That was a 2-1 defeat at Huddersfield. Their away game before that was against Millwall at the start of February. They lost that 2-1. And I'm going to go for the same scoreline. QPR 2, Cardiff 1. The pressure's on QPR. They could fall out the playoffs this weekend. They have to get a win.
Yes, they do. But I think it's kind of good in the sense because the teams around them are playing against each other. So it probably gives a little bit of a confidence, gets a little bit of points difference to back up again. Cardiff off, well done to them. Obviously got a late winner late on. That should be them safe, really. Still a disappointing season for them, but it'll be fine. They'll be fine. QPR obviously need to win. I'm going to go for a QPR win by 3-2. Right, next up, it's Reading versus Millwall. Reading back in true form, conceding quite a lot of goals. They got hammered 4-1 by Blackpool. And Millwall 4 straight wins now. And this time, obviously, beating Sheffield United by 1-0.
Yeah, and it's very dangerous, isn't it? We've done this a few times over the couple of years where you just start to believe that Millwall are going to do something special, and then they lose a ridiculous game out of nowhere. And a hunch is telling me it might happen, but there was nothing from Paul Ince's Reading side against Blackpool that inspires you that might not happen this week, because they were poor defensively. I know there were some classy finishes from Blackpool, but the way they were carved open was, well, classic of 4 or 5 weeks ago. So you have to bank on Millwall to win, but we know something stupid could happen. It's what score. Millwall aren't the biggest scorers. They haven't scored even 1 a game on the road this year. So I'm going to stick conservative and go for 2-0 because Ince will surely try and shore Reading up, but I don't think they're good enough at the back. Yeah,
I think Millwall will bully Reading. I really do. If Blackpool bullied them, I can see Millwall doing it. Obviously, Millwall in fantastic form, 4 straight wins. 4th best in the league at the moment in terms of form guide. And you just look at the results, the wins, 2-1, a 2-0, a 2-1 and a 1-0. So they're not games that obviously beating teams by 3-0 or 4-0. They're tight games, but they're more controlled in those tight games as well. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Millwall win. It's Reading side defensively are so poor. Blackpool card now open. I think Millwall will bully them. Right, 2 games to go. It is Stoke City versus Blackpool. Stoke lost late on to Bournemouth, and obviously Blackpool beat Reading by 4-1. Stoke 1 win in 6, not looking pretty, and you could probably say this has been a really disappointing season for Michael O'Neill.
It's starting to become it, isn't it? Obviously, they went out in the cup in midweek as well, lost to Crystal Palace by the same scoreline, ironically. So their season is just starting to go wrong at the crucial time. People talk about February and March being the important stage, and it's all gone wrong. They've let in 2 goals in each of their last 5 games. In 4 of them, they've conceded in the last 10 minutes. In 2 of them, they've conceded in stoppage time. It's a horrible show, really, defensively. And it's a side that has still got that bit of experience. It's got a lot of quality. It's on a rebuild, and there's not probably better managers about, but Stoke are ones that have got to have a little bit more next season if they want to be competing in the top half. They're coming up against a Blackpool side who were brilliant against a terrible Reading side, but when Blackpool are away from home, take out the QPR game, they always draw 1-1. And I'm not getting fooled this time because I kept going for something else. I'm sticking with the Championship's favourite scoreline. I don't think Stoke have got enough to win either.
This is going to sound controversial to our other Honest Football podcast colleague, Charlie Bates. I've been really disappointed in Michael O'Neill's side. Really disappointed. I don't think it's going to get any better. I think he needs a massive clear out in the summer. Blackpool, look, we say this for Blackpool since September. We're happy with Blackpool. They're doing absolutely fine. Really good result. That really is an excellent result against Reading, and they'll be back in the Championship next season, and they should be really happy with that. You went 1-1. Stoke have lost 2-1, 4 games in a row now.
He's angry. He's got the notepad slap out.
Blackpool going to do it again. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Blackpool. Right, last game. It is Swansea City versus Coventry. Swansea won 2-0 on Monday night's game against West Brom on Sky. And Coventry, once again, love a late goal. Scored in the 96th minute to equalise against Preston.
Yeah, I can't remember from my stats earlier whether that's their 9th or 10th goal in second half stoppage time this season. But either way,
it's probably up there in double digits now.
It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. They did it against Barnsley to win 1-0. They did it in the 89th minute of Bristol City to win 2-1. And you can't say it's down to luck when it becomes that. They're a fit side. They're a threat from set pieces. And again, they're back within 3 points of the playoffs after a little dip. And they've had their dip now. Swansea, they're just the hardest side to predict, aren't they? They're getting better at home. A brilliant performance on the road against West Brom. The last 2 home games, they beat Bristol City and Blackburn. We're finishing on the hardest one for me. I don't think there's going to be any goals in it. It'll be decided by one either way. Coventry 2-1 in stoppage time.
I thought you would go Coventry, but I'm not. I'm not going Coventry. I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to play safe for this last one. Swansea are better. Obviously, that was a good performance away at West Brom. It was good. Late on, you knew, I think once they got that goal, you knew they were going to get a second because West Brom were gone. Like, you got to take advantage of teams that are not in form. And Swansea did that. Coventry, once again, late goal. But they did concede late before, concede just before that. So you think it was done, but they never give up. And that's a really good thing. That's a good thing about a good team. They don't know when to give up. The amount of points they've got from scoring late on is ridiculous. It probably, obviously, it's going to be up there, but it's a credit to that side, a credit to Mark Robbins to have that motivation in them to keep going right to the end. So I think it'd actually be a decent game of football if Swansea get it right. But I'm going to stay on the fence of 1-1. Let's have a quick recap what we just predicted for this weekend's action. Cody's going for a comfortable Huddersfield win and quite a lot of 2-0s as well for Daniel Cody. 2-0 Fulham. He's going 2-0 Hull, 2-0 Middlesbrough against Luton, and 2-0 Millwall away at Reading. For myself, Crazy 3-2 QPR Cardiff. Millwall to be comfortable against Reading as well, and a few Championship favourite scorelines. And those are predictions for this weekend's action. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comments and give your predictions for this weekend's action. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football 3. I'll see you next time.